Welcome back, everyone, to Project Kitsune. Kitsune, the Agentic AI SOC Analyst that never sleeps. Today, we've got David and Matthew presenting. David Ruddick brings 25 years in cybersecurity to the AI.
No, that's me.
Oh, I apologise. We have the wrong bio. Well, we also have Matthew Gurr, who I do have his correct bio. Matthew is a senior cloud security leader with extensive experience driving incident response and security operations at scale. That's you, right, Matthew?
I think so.
We got the right Matthew. Currently leading teams within AWS. He specialises in cloud-native threat detection, privilege escalation response, and automation-driven security engineering. Welcome, Matthew and Mark. Thank you very much.
Hey. Golf clap. Thank you. So just before we get started proper, I wanted to thank the audience for attendance. I know it's Friday afternoon after lunch, so thank you very much for attending. I also want to put a big shout out to AusCert, the organisers, for the opportunity to speak today. I think it's been a fantastic conference this year, and 25 years is a huge milestone, so congratulations to them. So every incident responder knows the feeling. It's 3 a.m., an alert goes off, and the next 4 hours are spent stitching together log files from CloudTrail, GuardDuty alerts, and half a dozen browser tabs, to just answer one question: what actually happened? So across APJ, our team sees a lot of the same patterns, and over, and working on incidents that affect Fortune 500 companies across like 30 countries. So we started asking, what would it look like if we had an agent help us do the heavy lifting? And so that's what today's presentation is about. So my name's Matt Gurr. I lead the incident response team for APJ at AWS Cert. And before that, 20 plus years of security architecture and forensics and all types of security stuff. So today we want to show you what we've been working on with Kitsune.
Thanks, Matt. My name's Mark. I've been with AWS now for 2.5 years. Started in AWS AppSec, then transitioned across to the Cert team. I am still currently the newest member of the Cert team. Possibly.
No.
Oh no, I lost that title. Bugger. I am the second. So I've been with Cert for like 8-9 months now. Also love F1. Go Oscar this weekend. So I just want to talk about what we're looking to cover. So we don't want this talk to be about like vendor slides or anything. It's basically about what we have done and what we have architected and seen and played with while we've been developing this system that we use internally. So we'll look at the SOC capacity problem, GenAI versus Agentic AI, what the difference is. We'll go over the architecture, what it's good at, what it's not so good at, guardrails, and then just some ideas and of what you can do in your own. Actually, one question: who here has a SOC or is running a SOC? Okay, keep your hands raised because I want to know who here has a SOC that runs 24/7. Oh, good. There's actually more than I thought, which is good. So what we really want to talk about is it's not about replacing your analysts with AI. It's about augmentation. It's about giving them a superpower. So let's have a look at the problem space that we're dealing with. So we at Amazon, we love data. We love making decisions based on data. The numbers on the screen here are not new to anyone in this room. We are generating more alerts than humans can view, process. We can't hire our way out of this. We've tried automation, And when we do find good analysts, they burn out. We have seen this in our internal teams and our customers that we speak to. So we can't keep going in this fashion. And we found in our team that on the scale that we work on and the number of cases that we work, we needed help. So SOC in itself, we're not here to trash on it. It's been really, really good. But you tend to hit a wall sometimes with playbooks requiring to be updated. You'll get an edge case that it can't handle. It may follow the wrong flow. And traditionally, it was good for known knowns. But we all know that when we triage a case or we have an incident, it gets really messy, usually pretty quickly. So they don't follow your flow charts all the time. So with that, decision trees, pattern matching are great, but what happens when we go off script? So earlier I asked you to raise hands who had a 24/7 follow the sun support or a 24-hour SOC. Where we have that, where we are, not a lot of Australian businesses are actually running a 24/7 SOC. What we see in CERT is a lot of attackers, when they're targeting an organisation, a lot of those attacks themselves happen outside business hours. So there's been plenty of research done on this. Mandiant did a research paper where they were saying 76% of ransomware deployments occur outside of business hours. And the question is not whether you can afford a 24/7 coverage, but more about how can we build a system so that we can support our incident responders and our businesses that don't or can't afford that, but can still provide that same level of support to some degree outside of business hours. Because we all know attackers don't work business hours. So our defences shouldn't either.
So what's the difference between GenAI and Agentic AI? So there's a lot of buzzword confusion around this space, so we want to be precise. So we've got a chatbot that answers questions. We've got a co-pilot that works alongside us in real time. We have an agent to help us plan and execute on a multi-step task with tool access, but checks in with you at critical decision points. And we've got a fully autonomous system that does everything without you. So for incident response, we think the sweet spot is really between that co-pilot to agent range. We want the AI to do the legwork for us, but we want the human making a consequential decision. So the right side of the spectrum, full autonomy, is probably not the right goal for security operations, we think, at the moment. And for our experience, we're still doing quality testing. So it's probably, we think, maybe not for a while yet that fully autonomous capability will exist, but you never know, things moving fast. So GenAI as a chatbot is already very useful, as I imagine predominant number of people in the room are already using. So being able to, paste a CloudTrail event and ask, explain this API call is genuinely super helpful. But it's passive, and you have to drive every step of the way. So if you're still the one that's pulling logs, building a timeline, and deciding what to investigate next, it's helpful. It's a better search engine, but it's still not an analyst. The agentic investigator. So this is a step change. Agentic system doesn't wait for you to ask the right question. You give it a goal, like investigate this alert, please. I said please, so the machine doesn't come back to you. And then figure out the next steps. So it queries CloudTrail, checks the source IP is known or not, looks up the affected resource in your asset inventory, is able to correlate with recent change requests and build you a picture. And then in doing the same, it's doing the same investigative work as your junior analyst, but it doesn't, it does it in minutes rather than maybe an hour or so. And so there's a key architectural difference in the tool access and planning component. The agent can use your existing security tools programmatically, and it reasons about what to do next based on what it finds. So rather than following just a rigid playbook.
So let's have a look at the architecture of, or a high-level overview of the architecture. So we have alert sources. The sources I have, it could be guard duty, it could be coming from any EDR that you're using and so forth. Those alert sources are important. They come in and they hit our orchestration layer. So once they hit our orchestration layer, that's what decides which agent or workflow should handle it. It also has a number of options or business logic built into it where if it doesn't have enough data, it'll actually either go out and try and speak to another agent to get that data, or it may actually come back and make a decision that we don't have enough data at this time and just stop the process. It's got the and these are the tools that the orchestrator actually has access to. So it may have access to, internally we have it pulling from internal log sources, we have it pulling from additional systems and so forth, things like CloudTrail, Guard Duty. We have a memory context. The memory context is important where it has session memory, which we can isolate to a single incident itself, but also has long-term memory. And that long-term memory is important. As the system grows, it starts to learn and understand patterns that it may or may not see in additional cases. Once we get to a point where our agent has gone out and produces like an evidence package that we call it, it'll come back to our incident responder and it will provide them with, this is the logging that I've captured, this is a timeline, and these are some recommendations and so forth. But we always have that human approval gate, and we do that before executing any action. So the incident responder is basically using, or we're using AI now, our agentic agents, to do a lot of the grunt work. So let's have a look at the reasoning pattern that we are using. So most agentic systems use a reason plus act. The agent observes something, thinks about what it means, decides on an action, and then executes it, and then observes the result and repeats. This is exactly how our human analysts work. So we would do a very repetitive pattern when we were doing, when we were triaging cases, and we found that why not let agents do this for us? As you see, like we see an alert, we ask ourselves, what do we need to know? We need to try and find patient zero, as we call it. And we'll go and start pulling logs, and we need to interpret those. And the difference is that the agent will do this loop usually a lot quicker than we can do it, and it saves us a bunch of time. So what we utilize internally is a system very similar to this. It's not exactly that, because we couldn't show exactly what we use, but the idea is the alert source itself, it comes in and it hits our orchestrator. The orchestrator then goes off to its tooling. Now this is done in parallel. So we have a log assistance analyst. What the log assistance analyst, it will go off to internal tooling, pulling the logs that we require. It also has an intel analyst, and that works with additional internal systems that we have that collect intel from our intel teams to help enrich the information that this particular case or indicators of a compromise that may have been presented to us, it gets that level of enrichment. From there, that information goes back to the orchestrator, and then the orchestrator will check it to make sure that they have I don't think we called it anything particular, the orchestrator. But the orchestrator itself will check to see, have I got enough information? Do I need to go back out? How many churn cycles do I need to do? If it does have enough information, it'll actually go off to our decision agent. And the decision agent itself doesn't have access to any tooling. Literally, it is there to make a decision based off, is the information that we have, does it meet our quality control? And it's basically like a QA agent. So that's our decision agent. It will tell and it will report back how well it believes the evidence that it has collected will help the actual analyst itself. That goes back to our orchestrator, and at that point the orchestrator will then use the tooling that it has to then update our actual tickets themselves. The sections in blue that we have up here, the chatbot side of things, the ability to isolate or generate recommendations and so forth, we have parts of that implemented, but these are all things that we are wanting to implement as we continue to iterate on this tooling. So the tool integration layer is extremely important because an agent itself is only as useful as the tools it can access. So this is where your existing investment actually pays off. So if you've already got like APIs directly into your SIEM, or you have threat intel, you've got an internal ticketing system or a third-party vendor that you're using that provides an API, then the agent can actually connect to those and utilize those services. You're not replacing your tooling, you're just giving the user that never sleeps access to it. The response tools on the right, that's the left. So the tools, the investigation tools, these ones here, like we utilize CloudTrail, VPC Flow Logs, GuardDuty, CloudWatch, some other internal systems. These are all read-only. So the agent itself literally only has read-only access. Then we have the enrichment side of things. Again, read-only. Give me some threat intel. Call out, check IP reputation. It may go out to services like VirusTotal. It might look at, okay, well, what type of TTPs are we seeing here in the logs that have been collected? The ones on the right, if you were going to augment actions that your agents want to take, what your agents want to actually do automatically, like policy management, generating a WAF rule, or adding, marking a compromised key as inactive or deleted. These particular automated actions require this human approval. These are your mutating actions. All the actions that we have that any form can actually do any form of mutating action, apart from right to the actual internal ticketing system, have human gate approvals need to be, basically it's that human in the loop. So let's have a look at, when we did this preso, or when we put this forward, we wanted to do a demonstration and then quickly realised that legal, we're not going to sign off on that. So what we've done is just like a scenario walkthrough. So here's our scenario. It's 2:47 a.m. GuardDuty fires a high severity finding. Service account, basically it's a service account, one that's designed for CI/CD pipeline use. It's never been logged into before from the console, but it's just performed a console login. no MFA, from an IP address that isn't in your known IP range. Because everyone knows their IP range. Yes? No? They should? So in a traditional SOC, the pager will actually go off to the analyst. The analyst wakes up, opens their laptop, starts pulling logs, spends the next 30 minutes to an hour getting to a point where they understand what's actually happened. But let's see what happens when an agent picks this up. So when the agent picks it up, within a matter of minutes, it's basically been alerted. It spins up, it reasons about what the service is, what the account is, and that, yep, that login is unusual because guard duty said it was. It creates a tracking ticket. It discovers that the account has admin access because it's got access to IAM that it can go and pull from the logs. And it's already elevated the security of this particular incident or this alert from guard duty. So the human analyst would reach the same conclusion, but this happened before anyone's phone even went off or beeped or they were paged. So now the agent itself is doing the investigation work in parallel. So it's pulling CloudTrail logs. It's finding that very concerning pattern of the login and the actor. It's listing users, it's listing access keys. It's creating it saw that this particular user created a new user and it attached an admin policy and it created additional access keys to additional users. And then it went straight to some S3 bucket called Secret Vault. So simultaneously, it's also checked that IP that came in. It's a commercial VPN exit node in Romania, let's say. So the agent's actually done all of this before it has actually alerted a human. This in itself means that when the human wakes up or gets paged, that they can actually open up their laptop, have a look at the evidence package that's been provided, and they've already got that 30-minute head start. So they'll have a timeline. They know what the attack mapping looks like. They know what the impact could possibly look like. And they can prioritize the recommended actions. So once it provides the analyst with that package, the human in the middle, or the human in the loop, comes in and it looks at the recommendation list. And these are not actions taken by the agent. These are actually recommendations waiting on that human approval. The agent has done that investigation. It's laid out what happened, what's at risk, and what it thinks we, as incident responders, should do about it. And then it pages us. So I've got an estimated time that this elapsed at 2 minutes. It really depends. The caveat to that, it depends on your tooling, and it depends on how much logging it's got access to and how much logging it will actually return. So the analyst's phone now rings at 2:48, a minute after the original alert. But instead of raw guard duty findings, they get a complete investigation brief. They can then review it on their phone and make a decision in minutes. The analyst approves the critical containment actions if they're available. It holds the longer-term remediation for business hours because it's already contained it. And it even gives the agent an additional investigation task. This is a partnership The agent did 45 minutes of investigation work in a few minutes. The human made the judgment call. The analyst approved containment after being paged. And if you compare that to the traditional workflow where containment might not happen for hours, this is a far nicer environment to work in as an incident responder. Also means I can go back to bed a little bit earlier. So from comparison, alert fires for traditional, pager goes off, the analyst itself, it may take 73 minutes. These are, again, some of these numbers that we have up here are from similar testing that we've seen. With an agent, it cuts that time dramatically to time of alert, to time that you can actually act upon it.
Okay, let's bring this baby home. So, strengths and limitations. So what the agent does well. First, triage at scale. Not just counting alerts, but reasoning about them with context. The agent knows that a service account is doing a console login, and that's unusual because it just understands what the service accounts are for. Second, the investigation grind work. So log correlation, IOC enrichment, timeline building, tedious, time-consuming, error-prone work that a human would typically have done. Generally using the agent has lifted the quality of investigations. So third, consistency. Your best analyst and your most junior analyst don't produce the same results. You hope they do, but sometimes they don't. Fourth, around-the-clock coverage without the cost of a global SOC. And then institutional knowledge. So your runbooks and tribal knowledge that gets encoded into the agent's behavior rather than living inside somebody's head. And then last, around documentation, it happens automatically. Every investigation is fully documented, and as a result, of the agent's doing its work and the consistency. No more writing up incident reports after the fact. What did you remember? What worked well, what didn't? So with that, what agents shouldn't do. So that's the honest part, really, is that I think with what we've seen, with the hype cycle of it, it's not great at everything. So there are some things that agents haven't been great at, but we still need a human for. So high stakes containment decisions. Should we isolate this production database? That requires, understanding of the business impact, and the agent really doesn't fully grasp that. Adversarial thinking, so threat hunting, that's a creative, hypothesis-driven activity. And so, agents can execute on a threat hunting playbook, but they don't have that intuition that makes a great threat hunter. Novel attacks, so something that's new, something the model hasn't seen before. It may miss it entirely, or it could create a false result. And then stakeholder communication. Your CISO doesn't really want to hear from a bot after a breach. So operating without limits, you need the ability for the agent to stay on task. You need to review their performance and have an end-on cord. I don't know if people know that. That's an Amazonian thing, but you have to be able to stop the process and in a good state. The business context, that anomalous login at 2 a.m. might be your finance team that's traveled to London and they're doing some work, so stopping something from them is it could be detrimental. So the goal is to make humans more effective. Where we see that division of labor is really in the partnership model. So the agent's really good at the things that we've called out, with alert ingestion, log correlation, IOC enrichment, and then the human strategic decisions, novel attack analysis, and then that shared zone or containment actions, escalation calls, things like that, where you want the human to make the decision. We haven't gone from like 0 to hero on this. It has been a bit of a journey over the past 12 months. So we look at it this way as like a trust ladder, where you start at level 1, where we're doing the enrichment, as we've talked about, and then using a read-only access mechanism so that you're not going to change, make a mutable change in the system. So with read-only, we're not looking to break anything. We just really want to look at the quality of the reasoning and validate that as we go. Level 2, where you've got the agent running investigation queries for you, it's still read-only, but now driving the investigation steps. Level 3, where it starts recommending response actions, human still executes them manually, and then to automation, where level 4, where we think the agent will get to, but over time, we can execute on approved response actions. So in AWS, they're fairly structured. That would be applying an SCP, so you create a boundary around those resources, or implementing a security group change, things of that nature, where the resource is still alive and you haven't stomped on anything from an incident perspective, but you're still able to continue with the investigation. So the point is really to build trust as you go along. And so we've talked about this practically from a guardrail implementation with green actions, read-only, queries, lookups. Amber actions are low impact and reversible. So another concept at Amazon is the one-way door, two-way door aspect, which is a great principle. And then red actions are consequential. So disabling a credential or deleting a credential, that modifying the access control is really still a human thing. Adversarial concerns, I think everyone in this room should be across this really. So if you're giving your agent full access, we probably don't need to talk about this because it's a security audience, but prompt injection is a real thing, context poisoning, alert flooding. These things are like, where you're generally going to overwhelm the agent while a real attack is happening. So think of it like DOS or DDoS. And then perhaps the most problematic at the moment is probably overtrust. And so I think we've seen a few of these types of things in the media over the last couple of months. Defense we see as like a cultural thing, not just a technical thing. So treat the agent output like you'd treat your level 1 analyst. It's a good starting point, but still needs experience review. Governance matters. I can't believe I just said that, but I did. When the agent disables an access key at 3 a.m. and it turns out that it was a legitimate service on your payment processor, who's accountable for that? The answer is the same person who'd be accountable if they were going to make that call for that change. So the agent doesn't absorb the liability. We think that it's a tool, and the human who approved the action or designed the system that auto-approved it, they remain responsible. So for that, you need a comprehensive audit trail. It needs to be explainable in its reasoning, and you have to have a clear escalation path for that. So talk to your legal team and talk to your insurers ahead of time. These are all solvable problems, but they need to be solved before you put the agent into production, not after.
So how can you get started? So not all use cases are equal for starting out. You want something that ticks some or all of these boxes. So something that's high volume. So you've had enough practice running it to validate the quality. It's well understood, so you can evaluate that output, whether the agent is doing the right thing and how well they're doing it. Think about tasks that are time-consuming, like going off and grabbing logs. It's a read-only process. We utilize that heavily within our team. We also need to make sure that whatever that use case is, it has an API or some form of tooling that agent can use. Because without that tooling, it just becomes a chatbot. And it needs to bound or have some form of bounded impact where it's not actually going to run right through your systems, run right through your environment. It needs to, if it goes sideways, you need to have the ability to go, the impact of this is not as bad as if we just let it run right in a production system. So measuring success, so we're looking at things like efficiency. So mean time to response or mean time to remediation. Track those numbers. How many analyst hours has a simple log pull agent been able to save for your team? What about the quality? Like, have a look for false positives. Do you want to be, when you're with your metrics, when you're setting systems up like this, you want to be looking at how many false positives did we have versus how many true positives did it find? Those metrics do matter. We love data at Amazon, and we capture a lot of this information with the tooling and the APIs that we use, and we then go and retrospectively look at how well those agents are performing. And critically, measure the human impact. Are your analysts spending less time on repetitive triage tasks and more time on things that they probably enjoy, like threat hunting and proactive security? Importantly, are they less burned out? Do they like the way that this new system or these new systems are working? Listen to their feedback. And more importantly, are your analysts hanging around longer? Are they staying? What is your retention like on analysts within your security teams? Because there's nothing better for an analyst than getting rid of that boring work and allowing them to improve their skill and focus on what they enjoy doing.
Nice one. So yeah, the SOC analyst that never sleeps, it's not replacing your team, it's giving them superpowers. So yeah, just coming back to where we started to close this out, it's a force multiplier. That means your human analyst arrives at every incident informed and not cold. It's been one of the things that was like the biggest item to overcome at AWS was because we are working on customer incidents, every customer incident is isolated, and so every time we go into it cold. It's not like we live in a SOC with a SIEM for logging. So yeah, it means your off-hours coverage is measured in seconds, not the time that it takes someone to wake up and open their laptop. It means your analysts spend their expertise on the work that requires human judgment, and that's a good thing. So the technology is ready, the architecture works. The question is whether you're ready to trust it. And incrementally, carefully, and with guardrails is how we think about it, and let the human responders do what they do best. So the key takeaways, so the 5 things that I'd like you to take away from the talk is really agentic AI is generally different from chat-based AI. The ability to use tools and reason through multi-step investigations does change what's possible. The design principle is automate the investigation but gate the response. So let agents do the time-consuming work and then keep humans on the consequential tasks. 3, start small, pick one use case and then create that as like read-only. And then build trust, through demonstrated competence from that. And then guardrails are not optional. Every action classified, approval tiers, enforced, everything audited. And then measure the right things, not just the speed, but also the quality, the coverage, and then your human impact. So a call to action is really start with one alert. When you get back to the office, look at one workflow, prove value at the read-only before expanding, and then keep humans in control. So thank you very much. I think we're at time, which is perfect, and we will take questions.
Thank you very much to Matt and Mark. I believe, Dave, you've got one quick question.
Someone keeps sending me questions. The first question I got was like, are you guys now out of a job? No, take that back. Are you worried about your job? I'll take that back as well. And the other question I had, actually it wasn't for me, it was someone else. So are you going to release any code or even some prompts you're using to generate all your different types of queries?
So we're still working on that part. We do have some QR codes here to scan on Agent Core, strands, and the GitHub Agent Core samples. So we encourage you to go have a look at those, and then keep a lookout on our blog post for more updates on an agent being available.
The plan is to release into the Agent Core samples a flow of very similar to what we were talking about. We hope to have that done before this conference, but AppSec said no. So, so the plan is to get something out into the public space, in the open source space, as quickly as we can.
Well, a big thank you for encouraging us to integrate AI into our human elements of the workforce. Thanks again to Matt and Mark. We have a small gift and we'll break for afternoon tea.